the sluggo. Slant and go.
Casey the Beef Krieg, and I got it right. Did you see that? Our actual faces came up on the screen when they were supposed to. I think I'm 1 for 83 now.
83 shows. You got it, buddy. We're moving on up in this world.
Muscle memory, as in meathead, right? Oh, so you're back on Calaboogie Sound this week, huh?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I've already traveled once this week and in the beautiful metropolis of Aiken, South Carolina. And next week, I think I have another day or two travel. And it's just, a day here sprinkled, a day there sprinkled. So, but it's nice to be home when I can be home.
No doubt, no doubt. And I got Clemson basketball up here on this TV. Last time I saw, they were losing by 1. We're now watching Alexa's commercial. Got Clemson baseball on the big screen over here on the computer. It's 1-1, top of the 6th. And it looks like Michigan State is changing pitchers. So we got, as I said on Twitter, we're going to talk ball. We got all kinds of ball to talk tonight. But first, this shirt. This is an ode to JJ and his generous donation for the vets. As I told you before the show, it cost $6.50, and it was $30 to deliver. So it all worked out. But the Tampa Bay Bandits, as you correctly pointed out, the old USFL team, coached by
No, you got me.
the old ball coach. The old ball coach used to coach the Tampa Bay Bandits, and JJ is very disappointed that you didn't know that.
I should have known that. Yeah, there's no question. I should have known that.
And
I thought I was going on this year's, because this year's revamp of the USFL, they have some bigger name coaches too in that league. So I was thinking that somebody was back there, but I can't remember who that is either.
Here's the funny part is I'm saying this is about JJ, and it is kind of a thank you and nod to JJ for his generous donation. You're JJ of the Chopping Beef. But I was actually looking for a San Antonio Gunslinger shirt, but their logo was so piss poor that I bailed on it. It's like a green football helmet, and I was like, wow, green San Antonio, I don't know. Didn't seem to work out for me.
Didn't make sense.
Yeah, I decided to go with the Bandits. It's one of the other teams I remember. They had some cool names there, the Bandits and the Gamblers and that kind of thing.
I went to a few Generals games actually with Herschel Walker. So yeah, I know. I remember it.
You went with him?
No, well, maybe one of his personalities, but
one of his personalities. That's great. I've forgotten all about that. Oh, Casey, we don't have much. We're going to talk ball. We don't have much to talk about football. Clemson got a new commitment today. I haven't even had a chance. I've been so busy. Been doing the Astros podcast and this podcast. Hilariously enough, as I've mentioned a couple of times now, I start podcasts when the seasons are going into crap. I remember this one in 2020, and then, of course, this year with the lockout in baseball. I don't know. Maybe I got to work on my timing, Casey. I got to work on my timing. Clemson has a new commitment today, and they're looking for a center in the transfer portal. So I never, ever want to hear that Dabo will not go into the portal or isn't going into the portal. That's kind of died down now. And, amazingly enough, what happened is exactly what he said. When we have a need, we'll go, right? They got a need. They're going to look in the portal. Go figure. Spring game is 1 month from today, Case, April 9th.
Yeah, and I happened to look because 24/7 does a transfer portal rankings and things to keep some of those teams that are really only have transfer portal players, South Carolina, that to see who was available. And they don't break it down by center necessarily, but they have a bunch of interior offensive linemen. And there's still some names and some guys from big schools that are out there, and not necessarily. I'm not necessarily saying that they need to go out and get the guy that's transferring from Tennessee or transferring from Texas. Maybe they go out and get a guy from Texas State, or maybe they go out and get a guy from Marshall. Worked out so well for Notre Dame last year. So
Pout check.
there's still some guys available, and I think obviously Dabo will try to find the right person. And then what was weird with the signing today was it's a 2025 or 2022 guy, Levi Matthews, wide receiver out of North Carolina, Raleigh area. It just kind of weird timing, I guess. I thought the 2022 class was kind of wrapped up, but hey, they'll take him.
It's never too late. Is he ranked in any of the rankings, or is he a under the radar Hunter Renfrow type? Right? Get it, Hunter Renfrow.
He is not ranked by any of the recruiting services.
Okay, then he must be related to somebody. Who's his step uncle's cousin? Kevron checks in and says, "Good evening." He's listening to Tiger baseball on the radio. Kevron, thank you so much for checking in from Cope, South Carolina. You're steadfast in your appreciation for this show, and we certainly appreciate you, buddy. Thank you very much. Not ranked. Okay. One way, as I said, a month. The spring game is a month away. Can you believe it, Casey? It's sneaking up on us. When you get older, here's my other little old advice: days go by faster. Right? I mean, it's just a fact of life. I try to explain that to Parker, but he doesn't believe me right now as he sits in geometry class. It never seems to move fast enough, and I do remember those days. Hey, I saw you and Nelson bantering back and forth about softball, and last time I saw they were up 3-0. And do you have any clue where that sits now?
I do not. It's 3-0. It's my last check as well. I know Nelson said the first 3 innings, the Tiger softball team turned 3 double plays. Wow. So apparently they're playing some defense there. They're playing a rough and tumble Mercer squad. So it could be a close battle, but it should be a get-right game for the ladies as they took one on the chin kind of this weekend with the 6th-ranked Virginia Tech Hokies came into McWhorter Stadium and handled Clemson. All games were relatively close. But they swept our Lady Tigers, and we got to lick our wounds. And I'm using a lot of cliches. And move on to this upcoming weekend, which apparently is another Tiger Invitational. I think it was the Clemson Classic the last time. So it's a bunch of teams coming in, at least a couple teams. I think it's Indiana or Illinois and Liberty. Yes, I believe are coming in this weekend. So hopefully a get-right series. You never know with softball. You never know with these Big Ten teams if they're any good or not. And Liberty, they're usually pretty good at sports. So hopefully the ladies can get back on track. Really tough conference schedule. So 12-6 isn't bad. They're fine. I mean, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah. Not quite it doesn't seem to have the chutzpah of last season for whatever reason. Maybe some of the personalities that were there last year aren't there this year. I've been investing a lot in baseball, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but we appreciate Nelson keeping us up to date on what's happening on softball. And I know you check in occasionally. I just haven't had a whole lot of time with the other podcast and 15 projects at work. I usually have 4, got 15. It's been kind of busy lately. So I know you appreciate that because you get less weird texts from me saying, why is this happening? Why is that happening? But been
for busy. Project managers, 15 projects is a large docket.
It's interesting. I have different roles on some of the projects. Some of them I'm the what in the agile process we call product owner, just basically the guy who signs off and says, yeah, let's rock and roll. But some of them I'm just kind of there, if that makes sense, but I still have to attend the meetings, right? So that's
the fun part.
It's definitely put a cramp in my style and keeping up with the baseball stats too. But anyway, speaking of baseball stats, we're going to the bottom of the 6th inning. Clemson and Michigan State tied at 1, or actually we're in the bottom of the 6th. There is 2 outs for Michigan State, who's the home team in Greenville, South Carolina, which is always entertaining. Our Twitter spaces from, was it last week? It was last week before the South Carolina series, last Thursday. I thought that went really well as yourself, me, JP, Houston Burnett came in and dropped the bomb, predicting the sweep And that is exactly what happened for the Tigers. I'd love to do one again with you guys at some point. Maybe when the series get bigger. I think they play Miami next weekend, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. We'll see how all our schedules work out and all that stuff. But the Tigers are 11-0 as they take on Michigan State tonight. They swept South Carolina, as I just said, 3-2 on Friday, 10-2 on Saturday, and 5-2 on Sunday. South Carolina never scored more than 2 runs and really didn't threaten to score more than 2 runs in any of the games. Stellar pitching by Clemson. They had some timely hitting. They're batting with runners in scoring position, took a nosedive, but that's okay. They came through in the clutch against South Carolina to win all 3 games. But here's the thing. You and I were talking about this, texting about this, and we're going to talk more about Clemson baseball, but I think South Carolina's in for a tough season. We talk about scary hitters. They have maybe one in Andrew Eister, and he wasn't even scary this weekend. They suffered a lot of injuries on the mound. I think I heard 4 Tommy John surgeries. So they're kind of in the position that Clemson was in last year. But, man, their schedule, they play non-conference. They've already played 11-0 Clemson. They got 10-1, number 1 ranked Texas coming in this weekend. And then it's Tennessee and Vanderbilt and Kentucky and, LSU and whoever else in the SEC. I think the Gamecocks may be in for a tough season.
Yeah, I think they definitely will. And then, as I always do, I'm notorious for printing things out and reading off stats and getting a little intimidated by what the other teams always have, forgetting that my team, Clemson Tigers, are actually pretty good themselves. Looking at the stats from this past week, Andrew Eister was hitting over 570, I think 571 to enter the series. Well, he left the series hitting just under 400. So obviously Clemson did a lot to stifle him. Brad, what's his name? Bryson Wimmer. Was a heck of a player for them a couple of years ago, and has seemingly just dropped off, even made a big error in the field. It just seems like, other than their shortstop, Braswell, who was rather electric and was trying to do things and was really good in the field, it just felt like there was no one that scared you. Here's my phrase again. There was zero.
It fits this time.
That you felt like was going to hurt you. Every time Braswell came up, I thought, okay, something's going to happen. He's going to get on base, maybe steal a base, or at least try for an extra base. Other than that, nobody. And then obviously they're having troubles on the mound. I talked to a couple Gamecock fans and alumni the other day, and they were saying once they saw whoever started on Sunday was starting, they knew they were in for a long day. I thought that kid actually pitched pretty well. It was another Bradford. Yeah, they're in for losing to a 2-win Xavier team. One of the Gamecock fans was said, but they're supposed to win the CAA this year. I said, yeah, but they have 2 wins currently in there. So I don't know how good. Hopefully their conference is a little better than that, but you're not supposed to. A team like South Carolina, which holds such esteem in the college baseball world, should not be losing to Xavier. I don't care that it's baseball and baseball happens.
Yeah, and I remember losing to Xavier in the playoffs a few years ago, and that was disappointing, and they were a playoff team then. So if Clemson, who doesn't quite have the history that South Carolina has on the baseball field, I know Clemson has a winning record against South Carolina in a million College World Series, but they've got 2 national championships, fellas. If Clemson is, I won't say embarrassed, but disappointed to lose to Xavier in the tournament, imagine South Carolina losing to them at home in March. That's tough. But they just look like a defeated team. Now they could find it and get something together and get somebody on the mound, but that SEC is, and their schedule, I meant to pull it up, I forgot about it, but that's no joke. Vanderbilt and Tennessee and LSU and Georgia and
Ole Miss, Mississippi
Florida.
State.
Yeah, it could be quite the year for the Gamecocks. Now back to focusing on the Tigers. They have played really, really good baseball, all aspects. Now we saw a couple of errors against South Carolina. It's college baseball. You're going to see that. I saw one tonight, or heard about one. I didn't actually see it. Blackwell made an error tonight. So a few struggles, nothing like last year. They do everything well. Don't hit for a lot of power yet, but I think that'll come as it warms up, as we talked about earlier in the season. They pitch well. They have good relief pitching, solid arms, and we're not talking about junk ballers here. We're talking about J.P. Priester's guy, Dill, who looks like what's his face from the movies with the glasses.
Wild Thing.
Yeah, he looks like Wild Thing a little bit with the glasses,
Ricky
like not quite sure where he's going to throw the ball. You've got, they didn't even use Jeffrey Gilbert, didn't even get in South Carolina series. They didn't need him, right? I just okay. I thought for sure he would come in Sunday. Nope. We got Billy Barlow, who pitched 4 really good innings, and something happened in the 5th. I don't know if he made it through, but a good, solid weekday starter. I wish this would be the second game this week so we could see another weekday starter and who that might be, and if they'd piggyback and Gilbert would come in for 3 innings or whatever. But they just seem like an all-around really good team. And I'm going to shut up in a minute and let you talk. But before that, I wanted to say shout out to Monty Lee and his staff. I criticized him before the season, asked JP about, is he going to be on the hot seat if he doesn't do well? Because last year's team seemed lethargic, like they didn't really care. And after, 64 straight winning seasons, I was highly disappointed. This group has come out and done pretty much everything right so far. Whew.
He good. You take it over. So I don't know if I can do this every week, but I found stats that stand out. So again, along those same lines where I print out all these papers, I had a couple stats, and they're very basic stats, but they really jumped off the page at me. Again, Clemson runs for the year, 11 games. They have scored 108 runs before tonight. So I can do that math. 109 runs. Runs against 27.
Pretty good.
11 games.
4-1. You're going to win a lot of games.
You're going to win a lot. They're going to be 53-3.
It's
and the other
written in stone.
The other stat that jumped off the page was Cooper Ingle, 603 on base percentage. That is next level. It can't sustain the season, but through 11 games, that's fantastic. Excuse me again. I'm going to drink some water.
Here's the good news, or the bad news, or the weird news, however you want to look at it. Cooper Ingle at 603 is only tied for 15th in the nation. There's 14 guys with on base percentages higher than 603. While you take a break there, let me give you some really good numbers. And
Karma got me.
These can't keep saying good things. Here's some other numbers that are more advanced, but I like your stats too. ERA plus. Okay, average D1 average is 100. Clemson sits at 269. So they are 169% better than the average ERA. Now, the average ERA in college baseball, believe it or not, is over 6. But hear me out. The WHIP plus. Again, 100 is D1 average. They're 128. They get the first batter out 73% of the time in an inning, which means nobody's on base. Basically twice a game, the first guy gets on base for the other team. Kind of crazy. Their on-base percentage is 10th best in the nation, 447. That's not just because of the hitting, a lot of walks, a lot of hit by pitches. We know that. The slugging is, as I talked about, it'll get better as they warm up. But their OPS plus as a team is 118, which again means 18% over the average. So anyway, if you've stopped hiccuping,
I think so,
and have more to say, jump in.
No, just my other thing tonight. They were facing a pitcher who, in Harrison Cook, that had a 12.86 ERA, and I was just with 7 innings pitched, gave up 10 hits, 10 runs, 10 earned runs, 6 walks, 6 strikeouts. Opponents hitting 323 against him, and we're struggling to to get on base and push across any runs. So that's this thing that always rears its ugly head for me personally, that doesn't let me get that high on this squad. I love them. I love watching them. I love that they're winning. I love that they swept South Carolina. I love the guys. I'm starting to really get to know them. That's another thing I wanted to mention, is that Monty really recently, especially, has kept the lineup together. I know
Yes.
that's a knock. That's something that JP said, that some of these guys, if they're
Me
not
too.
hitting early, you lose them. You won't see them again. We've seen that a little bit for some of the guys, especially some of the younger kids, to start the year. They're kind of not there anymore. Billy Amick is one name that I can think of,
JD
and
Brock too.
JD Brock, and then the who was starting at second base, who couldn't hit it, Blake
Right.
Wright,
Right.
who couldn't hit his way out of a paper bag early on. But you get a kid like Tyler Corbett who's starting to hit. You know, he's got 9 starts and he's got 12 hits and 35 plate appearances before tonight. So you stick with the hot hand, but you now know every game just about, it's whether or not French is DHing or catching, and where Grice is playing, whether Grice is DHing, Briar Hawkins, but you pretty much know you're going to have Brewer, Corbett, Grice, Engel, Hawkins, Wagner, and 7, 8, 9. Ferry, French,
Your
Blackwell. See, I
man,
already know the
Briar
guys already.
Hawkins.
Yep. Briar Hawkins. He is my guy. Interesting matchup coming this weekend, and I'm sure you'll set us up for that one.
Yeah, Northeastern, who swept your favorite team, NC State, last week, and your boy Tommy White had 0 home runs. I just saw a few pitches of it, but they look like a solid team. So, as your friend Pauk likes to look at schedules and predict wins and losses way ahead of time, I kind of looked at this and said, Northeastern, that should be 3 wins, certainly 2, which is probably what North Carolina State said, and their fans headed into last weekend. And here's the deal: they were only like 3-5 going into that series, so they weren't great, but they were really good last weekend, stopping that shutting out the team that was slugging all the home runs. They shut them out on Sunday. It was wild to see. But before we get to Northeastern, it's too late now, but here's some of the individual numbers I have. Mac Anglin has a 1.12 ERA. Now, that's in 3 starts. That's only tied for 82nd in the nation. But his 0.75 whip is tied for 57th, and he's given up, check this out, Casey, 1.69 hits per 9 innings. That's number 3 in the nation.
Good.
There are still 2 guys better than that, but anyway, I digress. And you mentioned Engel, 603 on base. Wagner was slugging 700 coming into tonight. Now, that is only tied for 155th, but Max Wagner, OPS plus is 157. He leads the Tigers, again, 57% over the D1 average. Your man, Briar Hawkins, 529 with runners in scoring position. Obviously, not a lot of bats. We're talking 11 games, but we're not sitting here saying, well, he's off to a horrible start and he's trying to recover. He's sitting at 529 after we know he went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts in the first game. He still hasn't lived that down for me and you. Cooper Engel, 7 productive outs, an out where he moves the runner over in whatever way, not necessarily sacrifice. It could be ground out or sacrifice flies or sacrifice bunts or whatever way, or even a fly ball that gets a guy from second to third. And Cooper Engel, 16.9 runs created in 11 games. On the pitching side, the game score, the high was 74, Mac Engel in the opener, and the team is averaging 54. Clayton and Hoffman, the 2 Knicks, have recovered a little bit. They've got a 41 average for Clayton and 51 for Hoffman, but their most recent outings were good, 59 and 62. In college, if you can get to about a 60, because they're going to limit your innings. This isn't MLB where you're going to pitch 6, 7, maybe even 8 innings. Most of them are going to pitch 5, 6 at the most. So if you can get to 60 in college, that's almost always a good outing. Anything above that is kind of like gravy. As you can tell, they're one of the top pitching staffs in the nation, and they're only averaging 54. But anywho, great numbers from Clemson. Michigan State tonight, Northeastern the weekend. I don't remember who's next week in the midweek, but Miami the following weekend.
Yeah, and just a little. I did a lot of research on Northeastern. I know it's usually a joke, but I really did tonight because I was just interested to see how they won against North Carolina State, and I had a little time this afternoon. So first of all, they're 6-5-1. So after their big sweep of North Carolina State, they tied UMass. I didn't read the game recap, but they have a tie 1-1 with UMass. So obviously, I saw that 1-1 score and said, all right, either it went very short, didn't finish, or they're having even just better pitching than I initially anticipated. Friday night starter, the kid Cam, I have to be careful with his last name here, Schlittler. He went eight innings,
Family show.
8 innings, 3 hits versus NC State in a 6-1 win. For the season, he's given up 11 hits in 18 innings pitched with 13 strikeouts, 6 walks. He's a 6'6" right-hander, redshirt sophomore. But he lost the season opener to LIU, and he's lost his second outing to Minnesota. So not exactly teams that you think college baseball off the top of your head.
No doubt.
Their Saturday night starter is a gentleman by the name of Sebastian Keene. He's 1-1, but he's got 13 hits in 13 innings. So he would have if it was just whip, not whip plus, because I don't understand that, it would be 1. He would be right at 1. Well, it walks. Never mind math. But Saturday night last week, he pitched 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 strikeouts in an 8-5 win. And then their Sunday starter, Keene is still a redshirt sophomore as well. Sunday, another sophomore, true sophomore, Wyatt Scotty, he's 3-0. He went 7 innings, scattering 5 hits, 3 Ks, no runs in a 6-0 win. 16 hits and 19.1 innings pitched, 13 strikeouts, 3 walks. But the thing, again, I'm going for these stats that jump off the page at you. These guys don't really strike you out. So they could either get Clemson is known to strike out a little bit more than average, I would think.
Yes, I think so.
So we're gonna see this weekend. These guys don't give up a lot of hits. They pitch well into the game, and they don't really strike out a lot of guys. So it's going to be a fun little game for them. Our fun little series this weekend. And again, like you said earlier about not expecting it, when you see Northeastern team from Massachusetts hasn't been home in 2 months probably. Now they kind of make you look because they swept number 8 NC State.
In Raleigh, of course, as you just said, not home. By the way, top of the 7th, Michigan State it's a 1-1. Michigan State has a runner on second with 1 out. Now, there was something in that whole long list of things you were talking about that I was going to talk about, but I don't remember.
Clemson's down 11 at halftime to Virginia Tech as well.
Wow. Okay. And what's her name? The lady with the bowl on her heads is apparently at halftime of the ACC basketball tournament. I can't remember her name. Panda.
Oh, yeah. Red Panda.
Flying Panda. No, that's a restaurant. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
Red Panda.
Red Panda. Flying Panda. What the heck is wrong with me tonight? All right. Okay.
Oh, and there's a kid from my rival who's the DH for Northeastern. So I'm going to high school rival. I'm going to vehemently root against them this weekend.
Vehemently, not just regularly, vehemently. Yeah, it's been a great start for Clemson baseball, beyond my wildest expectations. I don't think you could have asked for a better start. And what's really, really weird is last year the roles were reversed. I don't know how South Carolina started, but I know Clemson started 5-3 with a lot of injuries in the first 8 and just playing sloppy, kind of like South Carolina did last weekend. So let's keep it up, Monty and staff. Let's get this win. Let's get this W tonight. Every W puts them closer to that goal of being, not only being in a regional and hosting a regional. And when you think about it, they won 3 one-run games. That's, some people think that's a good sign. I personally think it's not a good sign. For each individual game, it's good, but if you're playing a lot of close games, as they finally found out last year, I don't remember they had a losing record in 1-1 games. It came back to bite them. So we need more than one run wins. And Casey, the plus stats, all they are is they average out the league stats, major league, or in this case, I'm doing D1. I take let's take some easy round numbers here. Let's say the average ERA is 5. And if Clemson has a team ERA of 4, if the average is 5 for the entire D1, then they'll be 120, 20% higher. And the number after the 1 or the 2, as in the case of the ERA plus, is how many times. So like 269 is they are 169% over the average ERA or below on ERA's case. So it just takes an average of the league and tells you where you would rank in that average.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's like our gambling numbers. I mean,
exactly.
For entertainment purposes.
Exactly. And hey, this is part that I forgot to talk about. They're doing all of this without much help from Caden Grice. Now he has the RBI tonight, but in general, he hasn't been hitting with runners in scoring position. He had some home runs early in the season, didn't do much against South Carolina. Tell me they're gonna sweep South Carolina without Caden Grice going off. I don't even know if he had an RBI the whole series. I wouldn't have believed you, but doing all this without Caden Grice, and honestly, not a whole lot of help from Dylan Brewer until late Sunday when he knocked the pitcher's hat off his head with a line drive. So doing it without 2 guys you thought they were certainly going to need this season. I said it before, and I'll finish up this little Clemson baseball talk by saying Monty Lee, Andrew C., and the rest of that staff has done fantastic job in the first 11 games.
Bradley, LeCroy. Yeah, they've been good.
Yeah, absolutely good. Hey, you told me last week, Beef, that the Choppin' Beef was on hiatus. Is that still the case?
Yeah, it'll be probably a month or so before we come back, just trying to regroup and get us back on track and kind of figure out my whole life with the work schedule and things. So it always feels like something's happening on Thursdays with my new job, and that's when Choppin' Beef was. So we're going to take a little break, much to the chagrin of a couple of my co-hosts, but it's something that we got to do right now. So,
well, we can offer you up a Wednesday if you need one. We'll take a hiatus from this show. The Choppin' Beef can move. I'm all about the Choppin' Beef. Seriously,
we're thinking more Tuesday probably in the future. So that's just something that, based on once I get my feel as to what days I'm traveling the most, and I could always do it at a hotel, but just, it just felt like every Thursday, wife had something to do. I was traveling. Just something was going on Thursdays. So Wednesdays won't be affected, but we could probably do it Tuesday.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, over on Seldom Reserve, not much is happening because, as I talked about a few minutes ago, 15 projects, things have starting to get really busy. Normally I have about 4, right? And I can manage those, but a contract is ending. So that means everybody had to get their project request in by February 14th. And they listened to us and they got their project request in. I told my boss, I said, I can't do anymore. And she was like, well, you're all right. And I was like, no, I mean, I don't have enough hours for all the meetings. And it's that simple. I mean, in my head, I can do it. I can, tell what the project is on and on schedule and what needs to happen to make it happen. But I don't know if you ever dealt with this agile process for managing projects, but there are certain ceremonies for each project and like 3 a week, so if you have 15 projects, that equals like 45 meetings that are generally an hour, some longer, and there's 40 generally hour, so you can do the math. And I'm not crying. I'm just saying I'm a lot busier than normal. So I know where you're coming from. I don't have to travel, thank goodness. But that may change soon. Not travel as an out of the city, but to North Austin, which might as well be a different city from where I live. It's so far away, it might as well be a different city. So anyway, not much happening on seldomnewsreserve.com right now, but we'll start picking up again. As I mentioned last week, a new podcast joined the team, the All Out Blitz. Casey's best friend Brendan Moore leading that show. I'll have one of his up tomorrow along with ours. Really, that's about it. We're here to talk baseball, and I think we did that. And I think we can start checking out of here. Case, a little shorter show tonight, but that's okay.
That's all right.
You need some rest, and honestly, I do too. Oh, yes.
Real quick. I wasn't on our agenda, but I'm showing the audience. I know it's probably small with all the Clemson sports on tonight. Black Market, a book by one of Clemson's own sons, Merle Code. He's kind of been dragged through the mud in the media for his relationship that he, I guess, caused some issues with pay for play in the college basketball world. Well, he wrote a book. And so he is spending 3 months in jail at least. But he wrote a book called Black Market, an insider's journey into the high stakes world of college basketball. It is eye opening. I know everyone believes that everyone gets paid, but this takes that general belief and just dives in from a firsthand account. It is hard to put down. It's not extremely long. And it's one of our guys. And when I was a manager of the basketball team, Merle was on the team. He was always really great with me. Always a really nice guy. Loved his family as well. So I picked it up the other day.
Very cool.
Hard to put down. I'm going to read it again tonight when we log off here with 2 Clemson sports on. But Black Market, Merle Code. It's on Amazon.
Very, very cool. And there you are again, Casey. Let's see. You roomed with the offensive coordinator.
No. My roommate, Locks and I's roommate in college, his freshman year, roomed with Streeter.
I'm conflating the things here. Your best buddies with the offensive coordinator, you and
Nick Eason too. Nick Eason was one of my guys. Yeah,
best buddies, and now you basketball play. You were around the basketball team at the same time as a famous author was there. So man. You got all the connections in the world, and we're going to use some of those later on. Well, Beef, I know you've had a long week traveling, and I sit at home almost every day.
It's tiring too, though, Marty.
I do this show, so I appreciate you being on the road and taking out time to join. If you ever need a Wednesday for the Chop and Beef, I'd like to jump on and throw comments at you and rag you a little bit. So if you guys ever need a Wednesday. Just do it.
Appreciate that.
Tell the people goodbye, Beef, and let's get out of here.
Thanks to everyone in the Seldom News Reserve College Football Discussion Facebook group, especially Nelson Wilhite for all his help and keeping me abreast of these women's softball team. John Chansey for all his work on Seldom News Reserve and his beer drinking. It gives me ideas as to what beers to drink. Uncle John McGee, as always, everyone on Seldom News Reserve, Sluggo Podcast, and each and every one of you who listens, likes, shares, and participates. On behalf of Marty, Seldom News Reserve Coleman, I am Casey the Beef Cregan. Thanks so much for listening and watching. We'll see you right here next week, probably on Sluggo.
1-1, bottom of the 7th over here, 42-36 Virginia Tech over there. Maybe 1-2.
Spurtle.
I think we're done here.